Wall Street, even Main Street, even though New York City doesn't have one, now sounding the alarm over New York City's massive swing to the far left, to anti-Semitism. They're rallying fast to stop what one investor is calling hot commie summer. Bill Ackman reportedly ready to put his money to work, throwing his weight behind independent and incumbent mayor Eric Adams, raising taxes, freezing rents, opening government-run grocery stores. All these proposals have the potential to drive investment far away from the Big Apple, because this isn't just about New York. When socialism wins at the ballot box, capital takes a hike. Are you surprised by this, Jonathan?
You're going to see exactly what you saw in Chicago. A real leftist mayor come to town, and the Capitol went out of town. Ken Griffin, for example, from Citadel, left because of the leftist policies of Brandon Johnson and Minneapolis, Illinois. So you're seeing exactly that play out. You know, Capitol goes, Dagan, where it's treated well, and it is not treated well by socialists. I mean, people are always worse off under these harebrained schemes that have been tried over and over again. What's so frightening is the support for socialism among younger people who should know better, but of course they've been taught in their schools that socialism is moral, that socialism right, and it's us mean old capitalists that really make the world a terrible place. So that's what's so disheartening. I mean, Mamdani is a truly scary guy. What's also scary are all the lefties that supported to get him where he is. I mean, socialism is mainstream leftism now. It's not on the outskirts anymore.
He's a Nepo baby as well, but it was a large swath of Democrats voted for this guy.
Yes, and that is what scares me, but I've also been able to since calm myself down, and here's how. 1.1 million people voted in the primary. There's 9 million voters in New York City. Now, I don't love the fact that he is likely to get the nomination and be the candidate, because that's how problems start. But having said that, he's not representative of everybody that's here. When you look back on the most recent elections, the presidential election and also the governor's election, there was strong support in New York City, believe it or not, more than expected for both Lee Zeldin and Donald Trump. So there are people here that definitely are fed up and have had enough. We need them to go out and vote. The word on the street right now with Cuomo, to add to Charlie's reporting yesterday, is he's being advised by the business community and pretty much everybody else that he talks to not to run as an independent, to take his ball and to go home, because what that would do is cannibalize votes from Mayor Adams. There are a lot of people in that were not in the Adams camp, but now since he's sort of done an about-face and the city is in a better place since he's done that, they're willing to vote for him. And so we'll see. The other thing that I don't want to see is a Curtis Sliwa enter the race on a Republican ticket, because, again, that's votes that could potentially be coming to Adams that wouldn't go to Mamdani.
What does this say? And I think Jackie brought this up yesterday, and either jump in. What does this say about the communist indoctrination of young people by TikTok, which is controlled by China? Communist China, I might add.
Brian, you want to take that?
I mean, I'm torn between which is worse, TikTok or colleges and universities.
There it is, yeah.
Because honestly, the folks who were the real impetus behind this campaign were New York City college grads who probably had to take a math class when they were in college. I don't know, maybe they don't teach it anymore. I hope they weren't economics majors, but the most highly educated, quote unquote, people in New York City are the ones who drove this insane campaign to the success that it's had. Not the disadvantaged communities that the guy proposes to help. Noel Rothman at National Review said, look, if you look at the districts with the lowest incomes and highest proportion of black voters, they're not the ones who sent this guy to this nomination. It was the rich white kids. So TikTok, it got its own set of problems, but America's colleges and universities, I think, have utterly failed this generation, not only in their personal life, but in the way that they're thinking about civic life.
I want to pick up on that. I'm going to change my tune. I think I came here the day before the election and thought that this was a financial literacy problem. Then we got the results and we figured out who voted for him. And you're right, it's not a financial literacy, because they're probably all Harvard graduates or whatever voting for this guy. It is a history lesson issue, because we've tried socialism for thousands of years, and it always fails. Capitalism, with its flaws, still is the best system that humanity has designed. So it's a history lesson, and also it is a lesson, I think, on current economics. Here's some statistics. All college graduates old, young, all of us. Unemployment rate 2.7%. Recent college graduate unemployment rate 5.8%. Young workers 22 to 27, 6.9% unemployment rate. So these are kids, I think, who've graduated from college and have been sold the wrong promise. They can't get a job. Listen to this. Young people graduating from college this spring and summer facing the toughest job market in more than a decade. Unemployment rates for degree holders 22 to 27 has reached its highest level in a dozen years. Joblessness among that group is now higher than the overall unemployment rate, and that gap is the largest it's been in 3 decades. So I think these are college grads who've entered the workforce and been sold a lie, and they think socialism is the answer to the problem because they're facing a $200,000 bill, or they're wealthy and virtue signaling, but they now can't get a job and they're wondering why capitalism isn't working for them.
Well, they walk into a job interview and they start spouting socialist ideology or socialist ways of thinking. They're not going to get a job. Like these guys in New York, these business leaders who apparently can't stand Mamdani now, are not going to hire you if you walk into the office and say, well, free things are the answer. That's what I want to do in this job. What about free things? You're not going to get a job that way. You're not going to get a job going to the colleges and universities who have basically drilled that into their skull.
Brian, and exactly to your point, I mean, they have been taught, young people have been taught that socialism is moral, that it's right, that it's good, that it's something to aspire to, and capitalism is colonizers and exploitators, and capitalism is mean, it's evil. What I worry about is the bedrock of New York's financial community. I mean, this is the global financial capital, and if Mamdani's policies really get put into place, you will see a tremendous amount of that capital leave. And I think the success of the New York Stock Exchange, for example, really start to suffer.
It's garden variety Kool-Aid drinking. The people drank the Kool-Aid, but the socialists and the communists who have infiltrated this country, they specifically took over the schools because they knew if they fed them the Kool-Aid there from a young age, then they would be able to bring up this new rising class of virtue signalers, Taylor, I think is a really great word to use for it. And this is where we are. And that's why it's so important when you see the anti-Semitism on campus and things get out of control to try to walk that back a little bit. I actually think the genie's out of the bottle to a certain degree, and it's difficult to do.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Peter Orszag, under Obama administration, big Democrat, was out this morning saying that it is shocking to him that someone who calls for a global intifada is winning the Democratic nomination for mayor. But this, to him, shows that the Democrat Party has so lost its way. The more socialist they go, this isn't, oh, good, AOC can enter the 2028 race and everything will be okay. He's thinking, what's normal Democrats now going to do? Where do we go? They're not going to switch to Republican, but I think this is bringing up that there is more and more of a crisis within that party if this is the candidate that they have.
Well, they get at the national level, this isn't going to play the way it plays in New York City. And
there were a lot of moderate Democrats that voted for Trump. Moderate, close to the center, that just could not get behind Kamala Harris. They may not do it again. It may not be a pattern. Right. But if it goes too far, they'll pull the trigger.
You know, these business guys, just real quick, these business guys in New York who are now, it's abhorrent to them that Mamdani got the nomination. Where are they building an alternative to the thing that keeps causing them all these problems? Like, they come out when the election happens and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. They're the guys who put money behind Cuomo. Why are they putting money behind Cuomo? Why is that the organization they're building?
And why are they supporting the schools that teach, so many major corporations?
Their complaints kind of are deaf. Whatever. You don't complain about this when you're giving all the money to the schools that do this.
I would be careful about reading too much into this himbo winning the Democrat nomination because he was running against Cuomo. Yeah. And a lot of people probably voted against Andy Cuomo as much as they voted for Mamdani because he is a shape-shifting grandma and grandpa killer. He had a hand in sending elderly people to their death and then lied about it, buried it, and then wrote a book about what an amazing job he did during COVID. And people in this city cannot forget that. That being said, if you try to live here, and the Wall Street Journal editorial board goes into this, there's an affordability crisis. And no one, they're not strong Republican voices in New York City. And all Mamdani is saying, he's just doing more of what caused the affordability crisis. He's going even deeper, but, and I am not exaggerating, it is impossible to raise a family and own an apartment in Manhattan, making 7 figures, low 7 figures. I am not exaggerating, but that's where we are. But somehow,
more free
Yeah, just
stuff is going to make it better.
And it just seems like that used to be seen as extremely left, and now it's seen as mainstream left. You know, it's just seen. I understand you're saying a lot of disaffected Democrats perhaps opt for Donald Trump, but you know, the socialists, the explicit socialists, this is the bread and butter, from my perspective, of the new young Democratic Party. This is mainstream politics for them. This
Well,
is
they
not
have to be outvoted.
climate controls, rent controls, eviction moratoriums,
Cut the
high
police,
minimum
defund
wages.
the police.
Right.
Government
All
run
of that
supermarkets.
has created. But if you live here, there is just the haves have a billion and then have not a billion. That's the kind of bifurcation.